Wow, don't our superstars just grow up so fast? What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for a review of the debut self-titled record by none other than Miss Taylor Swift herself, the #1 entertainer, performer, singer in the world, one of the best-selling artists of all time, selling out arenas constantly, and up until now had dropped an album every 2 years since this 2006 debut. Now obviously there was a 2008 reissue of this debut album that had a couple of other songs on it, like Invisible, Perfectly Good Heart, and the popular radio Disney hit, which was one of the first ones that I really got into, I'm Only Me When I'm With You. I first came across Taylor Swift's music in 2007 thanks to Teardrops on my guitar and Tim McGraw making it onto the radio. My parents were very much country music enthusiasts, and they're actually big fans of Taylor Swift, even some of her popular material as well. So surprisingly, that is one big area where I agree with my parents musically. If you guys have followed my channel for a while now, you know I'm a pretty big Taylor Swift fan. Not really a fan of a lot of the inspirations for these songs because, as we all know, there's a lot of breakup-centric tunes, and she writes a lot of just diary type stuff, like something that would just be pouring out of a relationship, and a lot of the times maybe it's too much information. Take Dear John off of her Speak Now record, for example. That maybe crossed the line, but at the same time, I find her music to be very entertaining no matter what the genre, and obviously with this 2006 debut, she got her start in country music. I think a lot of people tend to forget about that with albums like 1989 and Red. They see the pop side of Taylor Swift and just assume that she's always been a pop star, but no, we see Taylor Swift looking like this back in 2006 with the curly hair, not the straight hair, and feeling much more genuine as a person to me, at least in those times. Maybe the stardom has gotten to her head because she does just kind of come off as one of those fake people. But I'm not here to talk about problems I have with Taylor Swift. If you want to do that, you can watch my video I already did on it. I'll link it in the description down below. But her music, I'm definitely a fan. And coming back to this 2006 album, I got into it whenever I was like 16 years old, I would say, right around that time. I think it was 2007 whenever I first picked up the album. Some of my friends were surprisingly into it, and coming back to it now, I'm just like, you know, it's probably not going to hold up that well. I didn't have high expectations. I would listen to some of the songs occasionally. I had my favorites here, like Mary's song, Oh My My My. Obviously, some of the singles like Picture to Burn, Tied Together with a Smile. There were some really great tracks here, but I was like, revisiting it, I didn't have high hopes. But honestly, it kind of blew my expectations, and I'm sorry for kind of prejudging it like 10 years later. And with its anniversary just having happened on October 24th, I think a lot of people have probably been going back to check out this record, so I thought it would be cool to do a 10th anniversary review for this. I'll talk about some of my favorite songs, just my connections to them, and some of the ones that just kind of caught me off guard whenever I started revisiting the album. You heard me mention a minute ago that I had friends that got me into Taylor Swift. I had friends that liked her, and that's kind of surprising considering I was from the South. I went to just like a Christian school, and I was lucky enough to have friends that weren't afraid to like what they wanted to, I suppose. If they heard something, then they would go for it. In fact, I was a little bit hesitant about things like Taylor Swift, Lady Gaga, John Mayer, and I just finally caved whenever my friends would keep playing things and we would hang out, and I'd be like, oh, God, I cannot really deny this at all. If you like it, you like it. And this is one of those albums that I'm kind of indebted to just for making me branch out and try new things. I had kind of gotten off of the country train just because I was forced to listen to it growing up. I had moved on to alternative, rock, some top 40 stuff, but not really a ton of that. Obviously, the top 40 at that time was much better than it is now, so I was getting into like hip hop and everything, really all kinds of different genres, but country was not one that I was paying much attention to. And not saying that this debut album from Taylor Swift is anything game-changing, but it's interesting to look at just because it helped launch her to just become a superstar. I'm talking like the mega entertainer of our universe. She's even had a few gigs this year that everyone is still buzzing about. And I think a lot of people are really starting to dive a little bit too much into her personal life. I mean, there are things that you can just say, but obviously as the tabloids and online publications just growing more and more and more, they want something to talk about. So I don't really have that much interest in that. With her album here though, there are a really good batch of songs. I think that there's some that get overlooked by people, even myself. And whenever I said that I didn't have high expectations for this album coming back to it in full, I don't know, I think I jumped the gun there because I was listening to even some of the singles like Tim McGraw. I like that one and I see why it blew up on country radio. It's kind of this slow-paced, twangy track that sees her reflecting on a relationship. You know, I hope you hear Tim McGraw on the radio and think about what we used to have. And we see kind of contrasting sides. Obviously, there's the breakup songs and the more sad and slow ones like that, Teardrops on My Guitar, even A Place in This World, talking about confusion as a teenager. One of my absolute favorites right there. I love the build-up and the chorus on that track. One of the best of Taylor's early career, easily. And then we have the other side of the fence where she's getting a little bit more positive. She's talking about things like on Our Song, and I love that one. She's saying, our song doesn't have to be one specific thing. It's a culmination of all of these things, and it sounds fantastic. I love the outside instrumentation on that, just kind of the fiddles, the banjos, just, I don't know, it's something that you wouldn't hear in Taylor Swift music these days, but it harkens back to a better time. I'm Only Me When I'm With You is another one that connected for me early on. I like the fact that she seems pretty honest and straightforward on the track, and she's talking about kind of the positives of relationship. Once again, being with somebody that you can be yourself with is extremely important, and I think it's a message that more teenagers, especially these days, really need to know about, especially as social media has become much more prominent. When this album came out, I mean, Facebook was just getting started, MySpace was popular, obviously Taylor was huge on there. I was actually friends with Taylor Swift on MySpace. I wish I had a screenshot of that because that's probably like my biggest accomplishment in life. No, but I do think it's a really important message for kids to hear these days. Just be yourself, and honestly, I know that sounds cliche, but it's going to get you to where you are, and people are going to trust you and like you more if you actually are yourself instead of pretending to be somebody else and then everybody else finds out about it. I think other great songs on here include ones like Cold As You. I like the symphonic elements on that track, and right after that we get a really nice one packaged in The Outside, one of the better choruses on this album. I love the backing vocals on that one, and Swift really seems in command. There were some moments on this record where her vocals just were a bit off kilter for me. It didn't really seem like she had come into her own fully as a vocalist, and obviously she sounds different these days. Her whole approach and her aesthetic, her look, her music, everything is different, but I'm just saying I can see the steps up the ladder, and I love seeing that with an artist, especially ones that get started at a very young age like Swift did. For some reason, I really like the southern drawl style of Tied Together with a Smile. That one opens with some acoustics, kind of twangy. There's a little bit of reverb placed on Swift and the guitars here, and it adds in a little bit more of like almost symphonic feel, those fiddles, some of the steel guitars going on the background. That's something that I can really appreciate all throughout this record. I'm a sucker for whenever it's done right, and a lot of country music these days, it's fake, it's phony, and I don't fall for it for 1 second. But whenever you can have genuine moments like this in country music, I'm totally on board. And obviously, it's not all just slow and sad. Like I already talked about, there are some more positive songs on this record, and I like that she also tries out writing from somebody else's perspective. Probably my favorite song overall on here, Mary's song, Oh My My. That and Should Have Said No, probably easily my two favorites. Whenever I'm coming back, listening through this thing again, instantly stand out to me. I mean, obviously, I love the aggressive Picture to Burn, and even the catchy as hell Our Song, which is just a ton of fun, still makes me smile to this day. But those two in particular really jump off the page even 10 years later. Mary's song, Oh My My My, is talking about a relationship that she sees. She's looking from the outside, and it's funny that she has a song called that on this very album, but it seems like she's looking at somebody else, and obviously it details this couple's journey and all the way to their deathbed, talking about when they're in their 80s and what's going on there. I think it's just a really well done song that showcased some of Swift's maturity early on. In those early years, still very formative, but she could also do something like this, and she proves that even further on albums like Fearless and more so on Speak Now. Probably still my favorite Taylor Swift album to date. And like I said, that one packaged with Should Have Said No, which comes right before it on the track listing. I think that's an excellent track about kind of cheating. Obviously, I don't think it needs too much explanation. You can see here that somebody cheated, and Swift is about to ruin somebody's day. You should have gone home. You should have said no. Why couldn't you keep it in your pants, Billy? In summation here, I still enjoy a good majority of this album. I'm not going to say I'm head over heels for it, but there are some really well done songs. Obviously, I haven't come back to it a ton over the years, but there are some that I've kept in playlists and that I've shuffled through on my iPod. Yes, I still have an iPod through time. Yeah, I don't know. I think it stacks up pretty well. Maybe not the strongest thing in Swift's discography by any means, but I'm going to go with a strong 3.5 out of 5 for Taylor Swift's debut self-titled album. Revisit the album. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments section down below. There's a link to stream it on Apple Music if you would like to check it out, revisit it for yourself, and just kind of let me know your reflections on it in the comment section down below. Are there other albums that are turning 10 that you'd like to see me talk about before the year ends? Definitely sound off in the comments. I have a few in mind, but let me know what you guys are thinking. Thanks so much for watching, smashing the like button today, subscribing to the channel because friends don't let friends go unsubscribed. Other than that, you can find me on social media, all over here, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff, and I will see you guys very soon right here on ARTV.